G'day, Shah here with Four Wheels on the Road. I wanted to share with you something that I've been thinking about for the last couple of months, and it's to do with swapping over the cameras that I actually shoot for the channel with. I'm swapping over from a Sony ZV-1 to a Sony AX700 video camera. If you're not familiar with the two cameras, the Sony ZV-1 is a photography camera essentially, but it's a little bit more video based. So it's basically a vlogging camera, I guess, if you wanted to call it that. And the camera that I'm switching over to is a camcorder, which is a AX700. All right, well, that's enough from me. Let's get into it and take a look at it. What I wanted to do is take a look at the reasons why I'm swapping over, and hopefully it might give you something to think about yourself, because there's actually not a lot of difference between the two of them. And the thing that I've found in my, thinking about what I wanted to change over and the reasons I wanted to change over is I've found that it's a really subjective thing. There's specific things that you might want that the camera can actually do. There's just the way that it actually operates, there's the feel of it, and there's how easy it is to use as well. There's a bit of an overview here that you can see in comparison between the two different cameras, but that's not what we are actually trying to take a look at today. What I really want to take a look at is in terms of features and go through the reasons that I actually switched over from the ZV-1 to the AX700. In terms of the specifications between the two, there are a lot of similarities like resolutions, frames per second that are available, that sort of thing. But there are a couple of little different features in terms of what's available specification-wise that prompted me to change over to the AX700. To start off with, in the reasons why I did switch over, you'll see here that there are buttons for each of the individual settings for the camera that aren't available on the ZV-1. One of the problems that I was having with the ZV-1 and have been having the whole time with it is that the buttons are firstly too small. So I was constantly pressing other buttons while trying to search through different menus. And that problem does not now exist with the AX700. The buttons, while only being a tiny bit larger, are actually a bit better spaced out, so I can actually get any settings changed much easier. The other thing with the buttons that are on the outside of the AX700 is that there are a lot of individual buttons, and as you'll see here, for example, for white balance, ISO, I can actually make changes on the fly with the button that just sits on the outside of the camera, and you can do it while the camera is filming as well. If you had the similar situation with the ZV-1, you're constantly having to go into the camera and go into menus to change different settings while you're filming on the fly. It just got to be too cumbersome and too annoying for me, so that's one of the reasons why I switched over. Another one of the features that will actually be of particular interest to myself is the switches on the outside here for auto and manual shooting, and also the ND filter switch, which is directly below that. Here in Queensland, we are shooting outdoors a lot in the sun, and the ability to be able to switch between ND filters on the fly with just a flick of a switch is something that's actually going to be really, really handy for myself and something that's going to be invaluable. Another one of the big selling points for the AX700 for myself personally is the extra memory card slot that you'll see here on the side. The ability to have simultaneous recording and even relay recording was something that I thought would really be handy for myself. As you'll see on the side of the camera here, it has 2 memory slots. Another one of the reasons is, as you'll see here on the back of the AX700, the battery pack that's here is much, much larger. I was having a problem a lot with the ZV-1 where I'd only get around about 20-25 minutes approximately where I could film and then the battery was going flat on me. As of today, with my first use of the AX700, I've been filming around about an hour now, and I've only gone through around about 20% of the battery. So it's looking really good for the use of the battery and how long I'll actually get out of the battery. It may end up that I can film in 4K on that unit for around about 2 hours or probably even more, which is a lot better than the time that I was getting for filming with the ZV-1. Another of the big selling points for myself, and it's a problem that I've been finding over time very recently with the ZV-1, is the focal length. With the AX700, it has a focal length of 29 to 348 millimeters, as opposed to 9.4 to 25.7 that the ZV-1 has. I was finding myself a lot of the times with the ZV-1 over the last 12 months wanting to focus in on something that was far away. And with the 348 millimeter focal length, it's going to make a lot of difference. And also the optical zoom range with the AX700 is a 12 times for optical and only 2.7 times for the ZV-1. So that extra zoom is going to make the world of difference, and the focal length will make the world of difference as well. Just for my personal preferences and for what I use the camera for, it's something that's going to come in really handy. To cover really briefly now things that I will actually be losing out on. I'll actually be losing out on the raw image format, which the ZV-1 has. The AX700 is capable of taking photographs, but with a little bit of a loss in terms of quality. The aperture range on the AX700 is from 2.8 to 4.5, and the aperture range on the ZV-1 is 1.8 to 2.8. And in terms of resolution between the two, the AX700 is only 14.2 megapixels, whereas the ZV-1 is a 20.1 megapixel resolution in terms of capture of still images. So I will be losing a bit there, but for myself and my own personal use, I really don't take a lot of still images. As I would have mentioned at various times during this comparison, I really was not sure what my end use in terms of all of the other uses would be for the ZV-1 when I first purchased it. All I knew was that I wanted to do video primarily and then see which of the other features I would utilize over the time. And as it's turned out, I really haven't utilized at all things like image capture through photographs, and quite a lot of the other features as well I really haven't used at all, which has prompted me to switch over to a video camera and to a camcorder in particular. What I wanted to do, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, was perhaps prompt other people who are comparing the two cameras together to think about what might be useful for them. All right, well, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I didn't want to go into too much detail, and I hope we haven't bored you too much with all of the information that I have covered in the video. As I mentioned, I just wanted to let you know about the reasons why I switched over and what's informed my decisions to do so. There are a lot of other things we could compare between the two cameras, and if you'd like to know anything more about each of the cameras, let me know in the comments down below. All right, once again, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time we get four wheels on the road.